So, a few nights ago, I mean, I think it was like 2 weeks ago now. I was laying in bed and I don't know what prodded me to do it. I think I was feeling pain and I was, directing some Kundalini stuff. And, also, I was experimenting with my, you know, the vertebrae of my spine for a while based on something, Yogananda Paramahansa said about the, occult spinal centers, which basically every vertebrae is, you know, is powerful. I want to say, you can get powerful results from doing work with it, whether it's based on trauma or whatever. A lot of people talk about trauma, but I think you can also just optimize this stuff, and you don't have to have it you don't have to consider it in the paradigm of trauma per se. So maybe that's good for somebody to know. Anyways, so I released it's like, I looked it up, and basically it's like T6 through T8, because it felt like about 3 vertebrae. I just concentrate on letting them go, right? And then I had a little bit to drink that night, but I'm not really a lightweight. I can drink and it really doesn't affect me too much. But I felt drunk. Like, I felt totally out of it. Like, I was dizzy. I was like stumbling around, and what happened was, I wasn't drunk actually. It was like a poop headache, like when you hold your poop in too long and you get like your head hurts. Hasn't happened to me in years, since I was like a kid. So I looked it up using, DeepSeek AI, maybe not the most reliable thing, but made sense to me. Basically, it's saying that, if you release the nerves, it can, like, basically expedite, poisons out of the liver and gallbladder, and then, give you the shits. And I had the shits for, like, for a few days. No. So, but this also represents a really significant, breakthrough for me too, because for quite a while, for months at least, I've been trying to figure out how to yogically, like, control my spine with, very little, basically with magic, right? That's the dream, basically. And I finally seem to have succeeded. Yeah, I succeeded. No seeming to it really. I succeeded in yogically controlling my spine so that I could, release tension and get. And this proves that I've gotten more control of my body, which is kind of the point of doing various like yogic activities. So I'm very, very happy right now with that, because I mean this is something I've been trying to do for years. But the thing from Yogananda Paramahansa, I only read that like less than 6 months ago, and now I'm doing it. For me too, the thing is I read a book now, and then my spirits fill in the blanks and tell me like what to do with the knowledge, or can like immensely expand on the knowledge, or show me like hidden connections between knowledge from one person and another. And oh my god, that's power right there. But yeah, so I did this, and I did it to some other vertebrae and got other good effects, but nothing as dramatic as this. So yeah, I basically I continued having this big headache for like 2 weeks after I released my spine. Actually, that headache is still here a little bit. And the other thing I'm concerned about is then my legs started itching suddenly, but I don't remember if it started itching shortly before or shortly after I released the spine, released the vertebrae. I'm a little worried that I released a lot of like so many toxins that it's actually like apparently what can happen. I'm a little worried because apparently what can happen is the liver can get sort of overwhelmed by all the toxins, and then like put toxins out into the skin, and then that makes your skin really itchy. I don't know though. I put some lotion on, or some oil actually on my legs. I don't do lotion, but I do oil. And it sucked up the oil really nicely, so there's that. So maybe my skin was just dry. I don't know. This is one of those things too. Sometimes there can be so many. There can be like 2 or 3 dramatic reactions from doing some kind of yogic something, because you know, having this kind of sort of hard to describe control over the body can really it affects multiple things at a time typically. And then sometimes it can be hard to tell, like, okay, maybe 3 things definitely there's some effect there, but then maybe there's a few things where it's hard to know if you're imagining that it's connected or if it's actually connected, you know what I mean? So that's just one thing that comes with the territory of doing this kind of these kind of practices. And it's not even that I feel weird even saying like, oh, practices like, ooh, the yogis do this in the Himalayas or something. I don't know. You know, I did it. It was really effective. It was practically life-changing. You know, some of the stuff is life-changing, but it's all I did was focus on a part of my body, and you know, I didn't even do it. The thing is, I've gotten to the point where I've gotten so sensitive, I don't even hardly need to visualize most of the time. I don't need to do crazy visualizations anymore to do this stuff. I just have like a sense for it, you know, and that's a very obtuse thing to describe. It's taken me years to get here, right? And now here I am, you know, talking about it. Basically don't even have, there's no words for this stuff hardly either, so that makes it really interesting. But I guess the reason I'm making this is because this is the sort of thing I would have liked. The reason I'm telling this now is because this is the sort of thing that I would have liked to have heard when I was, you know, taking interest in these things, just how subtle it is. Because it's hard to know, do I need to sit, you know, sitting in the Brahma pose, you know, sitting Indian style basically, for a couple years on end until I quote unquote get it? Or, you know, what is this, you know, what's actually effective kind of thing. And sometimes it can be hard to know because, yeah, there's just a lot of information out there. But, you know, mostly this is a record for my own purposes, but, you know, if someone else does care to listen, then this is something that I really think is missing from the occult and from, you know, Eastern teachers and stuff. There's just some intermediate things that I think could be explained a bit better, you know. So yeah, I think I like to talk about things that are intermediary, because like there's a lot of people talking like, oh, you know, Venus is love, and you know, oppositions mean this and trines mean that, and you know, do meditation like this and it'll make your life better. But I think there's a lack of like the next step, like what makes someone like a prana master versus just some, you know, what's the just the very first symptoms of doing prana for like a couple days. You know what I mean? So making some of the slightly more advanced stuff slightly more accessible is something I'm very, very interested in. Or I think it ought to be. It ought to be a bit easier. I'm interested in it. I'm maybe not willing to, you know, put a crap ton of. I'm not willing to put a shit ton of work into it, but you know, just passively as I can type of thing. It's the best way to do it, I think. As far as the whole thing with me releasing my vertebrae, I didn't actually release the vertebrae itself. in that occasion. I've done it before where I imagined like some tissue within the vertebrae I was releasing, but I always just felt like imagination, like actually reaching out and touching it with my subtle senses, basically. I didn't feel like there was much there that I could manipulate, you know, with my actual, with actual, like, muscles or whatever. But still, it did some good. I felt things clear, so I don't know how much I imagined it or whatever. I suppose maybe I could yogically cause some nerves to do some activity. But in this case, what I did is I could just feel the tissue around my vertebrae, and I just basically relaxed the tissue around the vertebrae, and then it was like, you know, and the thing is, the thing that was really profound about it feeling was it wasn't a click, because when I would, you know, try and like let go of the vertebrae itself, it would click sometimes. But I think that was just me releasing, you know, stress. It was very energetic. But but I was yogically doing these fine muscle movements in the tissue around the vertebrae, and I just did a thing. It's half imagining like a fist releasing. That's good for releasing, for relaxation. But you get to the point where you don't really need to do the fist. You're just so used to that feeling of letting go that you can just let go without a visualization in your mind, right? And so I did that, and you know, it was just, yeah, and then I immediately felt like a rush of blood and felt like sick and stuff. So that was the particular way of it.